Hello, folks, and thank you guys for checking out our annual meeting this year via PowerPoint. My name is Dana Boyle, and I'm president of the Northern Neck Vegetable Growers Association, and I welcome you. We would love to be able to be with you all this year in person to fellowship and have lunch together and all that fun stuff. But since that could not happen, I will instead take this time to thank our extension agents, Stephanie and Trent, for putting together this information pack program. For those of you joining us that are not members of the Northern Neck Vegetable Growers Association, please consider contacting me or one of our members or one of our extension agents to find out more about our educational programs, our educational trips, our scholarship, and more. We'd love to share more information with you about our fun association.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. Again, this is a separate talk. I'm focusing solely on pumpkins and cucurbits on this talk. There's another talk that looks at other crops. And if you know, I can't cover everything. Always, if you have any questions, get in touch with the agent or get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to help answer them. Wanted to update you. We've got a lot going on in pumpkins, and wanted to update you a little bit what's going on there. This summer we had 8 different pumpkin variety trials across the state of Virginia, and want to thank the Virginia Ag Council for supporting our research, and thank the agents, thank the growers. Locally, that would be Stephanie and Garner's Produce for allowing us to conduct a trial with them there. So I've got some really applicable data to the Northern Neck to share because we were able to evaluate these cultivars right there. So we had a couple of experimental pumpkins in the plot plan. This was Harris 1745, very unique looking pumpkin. It's oblong. It really grows tall, and kind of narrow. Great face for carving jack-o'-lantern. Fruit per plot we had 6.25. Average weight was 21.2, so it's one of our bigger pumpkins, as you'll see. But this kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like in shape and in color. We just went through and harvested once. This is Justify. What really stuck out to me with Justify was it had a very, very thick stem, about 6 fruit per plot, 15 pounds. So this is a little bit rounder, but that stem was really the characteristic thing of Justify. Spartan is an offering from Cicada, and it produced about 10 fruit per plot. Smaller stems, as you can see, than Justify, certainly. About 10 pounds per pumpkin, a little bit smaller than I think this probably was the smallest one out of the 8 we looked at. XPU 7204 is experimental from Cicada, and we'll just move on from that one. I'm not sure whether that one's going to go anywhere. Cargo is from Johnny Seed. We wanted to see how Cargo did because Cargo is a little cheaper than some of these other ones, and it did pretty well, I think. We had about 10 fruit per plot. On average, again, these were replicated 4 times. We had an average weight of about 14.4 pounds, so pretty good. And you can see some of the characteristics. Got some a little bit more ribbing than some of the others do. A really strong handle. This thing is like rebarb or something. It's just really, really strong. So I was really impressed at how well it did. In the Northern Neck and in other locations. This is Kratos. Kratos is probably our most popular pumpkin variety in the Commonwealth, and it yielded well, almost 11 fruit per plot. 14.3 pound average weight. You can see compared to Johnny's, it's a little bit, you have a little bit thicker stem, not quite as like wiry, but you know, really a pretty pumpkin, really deep orange color. So that's Kratos. This is another offering from Johnny's. This is Agor. And what Agor is sold for are these really, really pronounced and deep ribs that you see. So this is Agor, 13 fruit per plot, and it's pretty big size pumpkin, 18.5. You got some a little elongation here with these pumpkins too. And then I had Apollo. Apollo had about 14 fruit per plot, and about 13.3 pounds on the weight. So, you know, you can go back through and kind of look at those. Always happy to talk pumpkin varieties with people. We looked at, if you didn't see the one that you're interested in or have a question about, we looked at a total of 15 different ones across the state. So let me know if there's a more specific question you have on that front. So we're going to talk about some other diseases of pumpkins. Viruses were not quite as bad in 2021 as they were in 2020. Most viruses in pumpkin are due to aphid or cucumber beetle transmission. These viral symptoms start after infection, so you'll have good growth, like you see here, and then you'll have the aphid or cucumber beetle carrying the virus, and you'll have infection. Fruit can be kind of rough looking. They'll abort if it's really bad. You can have ring spots. You can have fruit that never mature, really. There are a bunch of different things. So about the only way to prevent the viruses, again, we have like 4 different ones, and it's really academic which ones they are. They all look the same, all carried the same. So what we can do to help prevent these is use seed treatments. So a standard seed treatment in cucurbit would be something like Thyram. Captan's been around for a while, but they're not going to help you on the insecticide front. So Tom and I both really like the Farmore technology. That's a 3 fungicide, 1 insecticide in cucurbits. It's going to help you get a good stand. And it's also going to help you keep your insect populations down, which in turn will help keep the virus down. So just keep an eye out for insects. There are some varieties that have resistance to zucchini yellow mosaic virus, but you know, that may not be the one that you have problems with. So it's not something that I promote heavily because we just don't have complete resistance to all 4 of them. A disease that really has been causing some problems for us is Plectosporium blight. It survives in soil, plant debris. You know, I see it. It's really frustrating to me because I have a hard time figuring out why and where it happens. We see it in fields that have never had cucurbits in it. We'll see it in fields that do. We see it in no-till. We see it in standard, you know, conventional tillage. You know, the warmer and wetter it is, the more you'll see of it at the end of the year in the fall. And it will infect some other cucurbits, but it's really mostly a problem in pumpkin and squash. A couple things to look for. On the foliage, it looks like little pinpricks, honestly. It's really tiny, small tan lesions. And you can see similar lesions here on the stems. This is, again, very characteristic of Plectosporium. So you can kind of tell what that looks like. The big problem is what happens on the fruit. So you'll end up with, you know, these spots on the fruit and on the handles. A lot of times these pumpkins have trouble maturing because they're not able to finish maturing before they are fall off the vine. or they really have a hard time keeping the nutrient contact in. Here's a close-up of what it looks like. Again, just very small spots. They'll grow together, sometimes be in different shapes or forms, but it's pretty easy to identify. Here's a pumpkin that, again, really didn't get a chance to finish maturing because of this. I mean, just really, really bad looking handle here. And we know the handles are very important for our consumers. So you can just see the damage that Plectosporium can cause ugly disease. From a control standpoint, crop rotation, I still recommend it, even though we do see it in areas where it doesn't make sense. Mulches, tillage, you know, I've seen it in just about every situation. So there's even contradictory research out there. So fungicides are important to use. We'll talk a little bit more about fungicides in pumpkins in a bit. We have a little bit of an updated spray program. You have Bravo. Be really careful utilizing Bravo because once you get fruit on the vine, you do not want to use Bravo. We'll talk more about that in a minute too. Strobilurins, Cabrio, Pristine, Quadris top. They've shown to do a pretty good job of suppressing the disease. And Inspire Super. I think we've generated enough data on Inspire Super to add that into the Plectosporium control list. Approvia top, we're still working on trying to generate some data on. Sanitation for equipment, you can take this around. It survives on debris. So if you move any sort of debris or trash from field to field, you can move the pathogen around. And varieties, there are some differences in varieties. And we first noticed this back in 2020, and this is at the Brand Farm here, in Montgomery County, Virginia. And you have a lot of differences there you can kind of look through. The main thing that I wanted to show is there are some differences in the amount of Plectosporium. This was a demo. So you can see handles, we had as high as 90% of Plectosporium on the handles. Fruit, spots, a little bit less, but you can again see some variability here. This was from the trial this year in Warsaw. And I just did fruit Plectosporium because really with this trial, if it was on the fruit, it was on the handle and vice versa. So we just have an incidence of Plectosporium. So a little less than what was in Montgomery. But these are the amounts of Plectosporium per fruit. Cargo was our lowest and Kratos was our highest. So just to give you an idea, if you have Plectosporium in your field, you might want to look at, some varieties that have less susceptibility to it. Okay, so we'll move away from Plectosporium and we'll start with Downy Mildew. And Downy Mildew was a problem for us in Virginia this year, particularly on cucumbers. It's found everywhere in the world. It can't overwinter here. So Cucurbit Downy Mildew is probably already left Virginia because of cold weather. It can't survive without a host. So once you have a freeze, you're kind of done. There are a couple of ways that they've classified downy mildew, or the pathogen that causes downy mildew. And the most recent one is separating it into two clades. And you're like, oh gosh, Steve, why are you doing this? Why are you getting so technical? Well, the reason is it really is important to know which clade does what based upon what you're growing because they infect different crops. So clade 2 infects cucumber and cantaloupe mostly. Clade 1, squash, pumpkin, watermelon, other cucurbits. Clade 2 tends to be more heat tolerant, arrives sooner, and possesses more fungicide resistance. So this again is on cucumber and cantaloupe. This was our old system of classifying cucurbit downy mildew and just where the delineation is now. So we have 2 clades again. That replaces our 5 pathotype. We've been monitoring for cucurbit downy mildew for a while. This is, while I was on the shore, we had a sentinel plot every year where we planted a bunch of different kind of cucurbits and checked for downy mildew occurrence. In cucumber, we would always see it first. So over that 14-year, 15-year period, we would always see it on cucumber first, average around the first week or so of August. And you can see cantaloupe a little bit later, acorn squash, all early August. And then we'd look at pumpkin and watermelon, and we were a month later. This is where clade 1 comes in. So we get clade 2 first, which is unfortunate that they're numbered that way, but we will see clade 2 first. And again, that's more of a cucumber cantaloupe, and then clade 1 comes in, which is more pumpkin watermelon much later. So that's great news if you grow pumpkin. Not so great if you grow cucumber, which cucumber is really where we had that problem at this year. If you recall, we had downy mildew come in on cucumber in Virginia around July 4th, so a full month ahead of time. So that's why we had so much trouble with it on cucumbers this year. It got here so early. For cucumbers, there's a lot of great host tolerance out there for downy mildew. If you're going to plant fall cucumbers, certainly use these resistant varieties, and it's not complete resistance. You could still get downy mildew, but it will help you out. Selective planting, if you have some degree of flexibility on when you can plant cucumbers, let's say you have a customer that is interested in buying pickles from you for pickle making, and they don't really care when you bring them to them. Then you can, grow them early in the spring, and you avoid downy mildew completely, or at least you hopefully do. So that's another way to get around the disease. You don't want anything you can do to help keep the canopy dry is good. Scout regularly and keep an eye on where it is. Downy mildew is a disease that when it gets close to us or is found in Virginia, I'll send out alerts to the agents and they will forward that along. So again, it really is a fast-moving disease. Typically, you got a few days of it being quiet, and then all of a sudden, I've seen it pretty much defoliate a crop in a week from when it arrived to when the crop was basically, for all practical purposes, dead. So, it's important to get ahead of this disease. You want to spray down here, preventative fungicide application. So you want to be spraying before it even gets in. You don't want to say, oh, I've got downy mildew really bad and have to spray here, because you'll never catch up here. It's just really, really difficult once the disease is going. For pumpkin, you have a bunch of options for downy mildew control. So you have Arondis, Randman, Presidio. You can, pause me here, look at the list. Organic, I will say sulfur and copper offer very minimal control, but it's better than nothing at all. When I say protectants, I'm talking about chlorothalonil and mancozeb. So that gives you an idea what that is. When you go to cucumber, you lose a bunch of these materials due to resistance. Remember, pumpkins clade 1, cucumbers clade 2. Clade 2 is resistant to a lot more fungicides than clade 1 is. So in cucumber, you have very limited options for cucurbit downy mildew control. Pumpkins post-harvest, I get questions about, making sure that they're going to last to Halloween and other things like that. Storage parameters, you want to be around 50 degrees and 50 to 75% relative humidity. You want to put your pumpkins in a place where they're not open to moisture or sunlight. Avoid injuring the fruit when you harvest them. Handle them like eggs. I get asked about dipping the fruits in water. I've even had questions about pressure washing fruit. I don't think it's a great idea. Anytime when you submerge or push water into a pumpkin, I don't think it's good. That water could be carrying pathogens or could push pathogens that are out on the outside of the fruit inside the pumpkin, and that is really a problem. So I tell people, if you want to, you can harvest at harvest, just have a cloth, a washcloth, to help remove soil debris instead of really pushing the water. We have a pumpkin spray program. This was developed about 5 years ago by me and David. We update it every year. Two things to point out here. One is Plectosporium. We've added Inspire Super as a treatment that'll help suppress Plectosporium. Inspire Super is also going to help on your powdery mildew as well. And the other thing we wanted to stress is this Protectants. These are used to help with fungicide resistance problems and broadening out some of these specific materials. But the C is here for chlorothalonil or Bravo. Please notice before the fruit, you can spray it. Once you get fruit, be really, really careful. And this is why. I've only seen this a few times in my career, but it's something that is pretty severe when it happens. And I'll tell you the story of me seeing it in 2021. And why you should really be careful with this. So you want to use, if you're going to use a protectant after fruit start on the vine, use Mancozeb. This is what the chlorothalonil burn looks like. This was in one of our research trials, actually, in another part of the state. Bravo at, I think, 2 pints to the acre, tank mixed with Bifenture. And this is what happened. It only happened on one cultivar. There were 20 plus cultivars in that field, varieties, and the variety it happened on was Kratos. This is our most popular variety in the state. So it was like, okay, whoa. So be really, really careful with the Bravo. It doesn't happen all the time. I can't tell you exactly why it happens, to be honest with you. I've tried to intentionally replicate, do it, and I struggle with it. So if you're growing Kratos in particular, be really, really careful using Bravo after you start getting fruit on the vine. So with that, there's another talk, by the way, that covers stuff other than pumpkins. Don't forget about that. We are also interested in talking to high tunnel owners, and we have some funding from VDAX and the USDA to help monitor for disease buildup in high tunnels. So if you're interested in something like that, you can contact me, contact your extension agent. And again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. And again, thanks. I look forward to seeing everybody in person again soon, and have a great holiday season. And thanks for the invite as always.
Please take a moment to complete the brief survey links below. Your responses will give us a better understanding of how we are doing and how we may better serve your needs in the future. To access the survey, you may scan the QR code on the left using your smartphone's camera or QR code scanning app, or enter the link on the right into your internet browser. Thank you.